Hello, welcome to my program on effective communication. I'm Bob Sushadri. Let's talk a bit about customers and their apprehensions. Most customers are afraid of the salesperson, uncertain about the store, and doubtful about their own ability to make a wise buying decision. You'll notice we take several buying decisions on an emotional basis and then justify our decision logically. The customer will not often show it, but from the time he or she first sets foot in your premises, they're apprehensive, wary, and in some cases terrified that he or she will end up spending the money unwisely, either by buying the wrong product or agreeing to a bad deal. This could also be due to the unsatisfactory experience in the past, or perhaps they've heard people talk negatively about the product he's going to go and look at. So during the selling process, the sales consultant has to appeal to the emotional and a few logical reasons to persuade the customer to buy the product. One other fear that the customer has is fear of getting ripped. Salesmen do not have a good reputation the world over. An often heard quote, oh, he's a salesman, he'll say anything to sell his products. True. It happened once. I was sitting around a campfire along with a few residents in the Kabini Jungle Lodge in Karnataka, managed by a retired colonel. We were all relating our stories. I related a particularly interesting experience of being chased by a mother elephant who was disturbed by me while she was grazing there with a calf. At the end of my piece, the colonel asked me what I was doing for a living. Those days, I was the sales and marketing manager of an automobile company in Dubai, I think. And he said, oh, don't listen to him. He's a car trader. He's a car trader. He's definitely not telling the truth. I used to see advertisements in the United States and in Canada of used car dealers advertising regularly, saying, I'm Honest Joe. Trust me. I'm your neighborhood honest used car dealer. Come to me for the best deal of your life, so on and so forth. So people have to always emphasize that they are honest and all that as far as the salesperson is concerned. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So effective communication is the only method one can use to allay the fears of a customer. Every salesperson must learn the skills to be an effective communicator. Before a salesperson can persuade a prospect to buy a product or a service, he must be able to understand what the prospect needs and then make a sales presentation in a clear and convincing and a concise manner. In order to do that, the sales executive must learn to listen. We'll talk more on the subject later on. But very quickly, let's understand even need has a split. There's a difference between an implied need and an explicit need. An implied need is when a factory owner says, I need to generally improve the output. That's an implied need. It's not saying anything specific. The explicit need is if he says, I need some processes which can keep the scrap levels below 4%. That is an explicit need. Again, another example. An implied need. I'm very unhappy with my present car. That's an implied need. I'm unhappy about the car. That's it. I need another car. An explicit need is I need a car with an automatic transmission. That's an explicit. So, when in doubt whether a need is explicit or implied, it's better to consider it implied and ask for clarification instead of jumping the gun and going into a conclusion. So, when you have uncovered the customer's need and have a clear understanding of the need, acknowledge that need and introduce appropriate benefits that supports that need. The greatest weakness in most sales executives is either you see a verbal diarrhea or absolute silence, or servitude, or arrogance. or plain disinterest. I've seen every one of them and have addressed it, and we'll dwell more on this subject later. Skilled communications will give you a host of information that will help you understand the customer, sift the want from the needs, and then close the deal. They're called, there are ways, these are called open ended questions, closed questions, which we'll address in the next module. If possible, it's good to learn the local language, and it always helps. So, listening as a skill is something that every sales consultant has to address and learn. Most people, especially high strung sales personnel, prefer talking to listening. Think about the people who you enjoy being with. Are they the people who listen to you? Think about the people who you want to avoid. Aren't they the people who talk incessantly and never let you get a word in edgewise? Now think about this. Have you heard of anyone complain about someone who listens too much? No. But you'll always hear them complain about a person who talks too much. So people buy from you because they like you. Listening is one of the most genuine compliments you can give the other person. So a good sales consultant is a good listener. A better sales consultant is a better listener. So what can you do to become a better listener? By showing respect. By showing respect to the person you are speaking to, as he or she has taken the trouble to speak to you, has taken the trouble to come to your store and speaking to you. So by paying attention to what is being said. And what do you gain by listening? Plenty. It sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people just hear, they don't listen. There's a difference. You'll get a whole lot of information that will assist you to close the deal if only you care to listen. Listening will help you identify your product's needs, prospects' needs, and be able to match your products or services to the needs. You don't want to be in my position of being recommended a hatchback by a salesperson when I clearly stated the size of my family, including our canine member, and also I have wanted enough room for my golf clubs. And he was suggesting a hatchback. Again, if you don't listen to your customers' needs, you'll probably end up trying to sell a car with 1000 watts of music power when all he's interested in is the safety aspects of his for his large family. So listening with an open mind leads you to a world of information and learning. Try this exercise on a scale of 1 to 10. Evaluate yourself as a listener. 1 is low and 10 is high. Find out how you stack up. Now that you've evaluated yourself, go ask your spouse or your friends for some honest feedback. You might discover that you're not as good a listener as you thought you were. To summarize, take interest in what the prospect is saying. Hold your fire. Listen first. Listen to ideas from the customer. Avoid distractions, mobile phones, different kinds of disturbances that always come in. Participate mentally with the prospect. Exercise on listening skills. Your listening habits are something that you must practice and adhere to. Suppose you've heard about the Chinese whisper. This is an exercise wherein a group of 10, a message is conveyed to the first person, to the second one, and then to the third person. It will carry on going to the last person. The message keeps getting distorted, and it's totally distorted by the time it reaches the last person. So, if you listen carefully, you'll never make that mistake. It's only when we hear that we carry on doing this. Let's talk about speaking as a skill. A two-way communication is always better. Now, remember that what are the benefits of a two-way communication? A, it's more accurate than a one-way communication to start with. B, it takes longer, thus providing with more time to gather information about your client. See, the person listening to you feels more secure and confident in your actions. And D, the person receiving the message develops a great sense of satisfaction and a reduction in frustration. It does sometimes, however, require more effort and patience in the part of the transmitter of the message. I mean, the one who's talking. So, only a clear and precise language has its strength to convince an individual. For example, say yesterday morning, don't say recently. Say 63% of all cases, don't say mainly. Say at the latest on Thursday, I'll give you a call. Don't say in the next few days, I'll give you a call. Shifting the conversation from one product to another is yet another skill worth learning. Give you an example. While the prospect is talking about a car with more bells and whistles, more options, I mean, you may want the prospect to focus on the one that has been growing whiskers on the floor, sitting on the floor. I mean, the car that has been sitting too long on the showroom floor. So there's a skill on gently introducing that product while the customer is also talking about what exactly he wants. And if you see, there could be a connection between the two. The gently shifting of one car to the other is a skill that you'll have to learn, practice, and acquire. Often a salesperson tends to talk too much. It's tempting to ask a question and then keep on talking. We tend to do it. We will ask a question, and before the other person can answer, we start talking again. You'll notice this all around you. Observe, notice this. So there's a time to shut up. In order to fathom out what your prospect is thinking, it's important to remember to let your prospect do the talking and you do the listening and watching the body language, is what it's trying to say. The more your prospects talk, the more you will learn about the problems that they want to overcome. Their actual needs will then surface and what motivates them to buy. But if you answer your own questions, there's little left for your prospects to say. So, effective communication helps you assist the customer to differentiate between a want and a need. And it helps you to know how and when you can close the deal. I take the liberty to quote Mr. Rudyard Kipling, who said, I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. Their names are what and why and when and how and where and who. Using these magic words, what, why, when, how, where, and who, will help you in so many different ways, right from solving problems, unfurling a prospect's mind, to writing strategy reports, project reports, business plans, marketing reports, justifications, explaining situations, so much more. The magic words bring clarity to every situation. We'll discuss more on this in the next module. That's all for tonight. Bye for now.